Okay, and we're here at the studio at Claris with two visitors involved in the production of the film The Russian Snark, which screened yesterday at the Social Club in Claris. Now, we've just been talking about the story of the film itself, of a filmmaker from Russia that's trying to realize his art and going through his personal story, his love relationship to his partner that came with him, and his way of trying to express himself in a new country. Now, as an idea for a movie, it's an interesting one, but if you have an idea, how do you translate that into a movie? I want to speak to Liz DeFiore, the producer of this movie, to tell me a little bit about how one goes about that. So, hello, Liz.
Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you, Rent?
Okay, I haven't got a voice coming through here.
Okay. How are you, Rent?
Okay, that's much better. Okay, speak up loudly, close to the microphone. Gotcha.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, great.
Now, tell us a little bit. Okay, when did the idea appear, and how did it grow into a film? Tell us the story.
Well, Steve and I had made a film back in 2004, which was called Ride, which was a short film, which was a Film Commission funded project, and it was a 35mm short. And following that, he had then gone on to make a couple of shorts with the actors Stephen Paps and Elena Stienko, and liked working with them very much, and thought, well, look, we want to make a feature, and the best way to do it is to write for these characters. So he and I talked about the story that he'd come up with, which he's discussed a little bit earlier today. And I thought, yeah, that sounds like an interesting idea that I'd like to get involved with, and it seems practical to make it. And let's put the process in place, which we've been involved with for many years on lots of other projects. So basically, it started out with Stephen working on the script. As I said, he'd worked with these actors before, so it gave him an opportunity to know where their strengths were and what potentially would be good, interesting ways to use the skills that they already had. So in 2007, he started working on the script, and I guess spent about 8 months or thereabouts on it. Late 2007, we were getting looking quite good, looking kind of ready for potentially shooting in the new year. And so we went about putting together a rough budget in terms of what it was likely to cost, and thinking about, at the same time, who we would like to collaborate with on the project. And obviously the key people that you're working with are often the director of photography, and the people who are going to be working quite closely with the cast. So we spent the next sort of several months putting together a team who were interested in the project, were understanding of its low budget and the parameters and constrictions of that aspect of the film, and who were keen to come and work with us on what was likely to be quite a long journey. Initially, I was hopeful that we would make it within a year, but that wasn't the way it was going to. It wasn't the way it worked out. And so, what we did do is we had a number of scenes which were set in water, outside, in kind of environments that cast would not be very comfortable in if we waited till the winter. And although we weren't quite finished with the script, we thought, well, let's go ahead and shoot the things that we know that we want, which are going to involve people in wet and potentially wet and cold situations. So we shot 6 days at the end or middle of March in 2008, and at least at this point then had something in the can that Stephen could then have a look at as well and say, okay, this is kind of working, and these are the things that are going to have issues. So let's see where that goes as far as the rest of the script that he was continuing to develop. We went on to shoot another 3 weeks in June, and that was primarily the Auckland location-based aspects. We had a large sort of a hotel house that we were using. We found it we got somebody involved in looking for locations with us, and we found what was at that stage a young Māori women's boarding hostel, which the woman who ran it was incredibly generous and hospitable and said yes, we could come and shoot there. And as it turned out, shot there on and off over another year and a half, over several other days after our main shoot. We were able to come back and recreate and do pickups there. But she was incredibly supportive, and it became the main location that we shot in, and it actually worked really well as a classic old school style Auckland boarding house that our cast came to when they arrived in New Zealand. So it didn't require a huge amount of dressing or changes. We did a few tweaks, obviously, and our department was very good about looking at the best way to do things quite simply to recreate a boarding house environment for us. And so that bulk of the shooting that happened in June was those kinds of interiors. And then what we did is did a basic cut on the film and showed it to a number of people whose thoughts and approaches to filmmaking we trusted, and as we wanted to get some candid feedback on it to see what their thoughts were on what we'd put together at that stage. So we we got some feedback, and in the process of that, we could see that we needed to do some more work in some areas of the film to help the story evolve. And so it became a process over the next sort of 18 months or so of periodically showing it to people, getting feedback, and then doing a few more pickups here or there to fully sculpt the film into what we've got now. And I think that the process, although it meant that the film wasn't finished in a year, which I'd hoped that it would be, to get it out to the audiences, it did take longer than that, but it was worthwhile in terms of creating a much better film in the long run, because we were able to have that time to look at it, sit back, reflect, continue to work with it, and create something that was a better experience for the audience.
It sounds like quite a story to put this film together, but I hear some key points come out of that. You started off with fleshing out a good script. You had it tailored to the actors you were going to work with. You got some good support for getting logistics and shooting sites sorted out along the way. You also took the time to kind of see how it evolved and what you got in the can is the words you used, to work with that. And you also got advice from others that you valued. So there's a whole process that you went through. What's the, what for you was the make or break moment or input along that line there that you think would have made a critical difference?
Well, I guess in terms of the audience or our small audience feedback that we got, we had been screening it for a number of people in Auckland, and I was overseas, and I had been invited to speak at a French school in Paris. A friend of mine was the director of the school, and he wanted us to come in and do a one-on-one session with the students. There were about 60 of them, and I said, look, what I'd love to do is to do a focus group with them so that we can screen it for all these 60 students. They're international students. And then do, at the end of that, a Q&A type situation, get their feedback in terms of what their thoughts were on this film, because I was very keen on getting a international response to it, and here was a perfect opportunity where we can actually get some very candid response from people who would potentially be the film goers at a later stage. And so what I found in the process of doing that was that quite a number of the things that had come out of the local New Zealand feedback sessions actually were mirrored by those students in Europe, in France. So, and they came from many different cultures all over the world. So for me, that getting that feedback and feeling, well, yes, actually, there's common themes coming through here that the audience feels could be addressed in a different way or needed some more, elements. And so I came back to New Zealand, and Stephen and I worked together on those aspects to be able to, again, sculpt the film in a way that it would address some of those issues, which sometimes when you're very close to a film, you don't actually see as well as you might. So getting that feedback along the way was really useful. One of the things I might say also is that in the process, which we didn't mention earlier, as far as one of the processes of putting a film together like this, because of our really micro budget and the fact that it was self-funded, was that we really relied a lot on the goodwill and support of the film industry at large in terms of accessing equipment and services and space for cutting, and we were cutting over almost 2 years, and Images and Sound, who are based in Auckland, who have been very supportive of a lot of the projects that I've done over the years, came to the party and basically let us keep cutting over and above what would normally be like a 12-week cutting process for a feature or something. We were actually to be sort of camped in there for many, many more months than that. Our editor, and our first editor and then our second editor, also gave us many, many long hours. Our suppliers of all kinds of equipment came to the party and said, look, we like the idea, we like what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve on a very limited resource, and we'll come to the party and help you out with it so that you can keep going and continue to make your film. And it's those sorts of things which are enormously helpful, that you get community support to be able to make a film, under the auspices of what we did.
I speak to Liz DeFiore, producer of the film The Russian Snark, and we're just going to take a break. In a moment, we want to talk a little bit more about movie making and how that could actually happen here on Great Bay Island.